people that were smoking cannabis didn't look like me. You know, I was well dressed, Asian background. Mom really cared about education, very strict. I was one of 5 kids, so, you know, the propaganda was very strong in our family. Oh, if you did drugs, you weren't gonna be smart. If you weren't smart, you couldn't go to school. If you didn't go to school, you weren't gonna be successful. And, you know, interesting enough, I didn't do anything all the way till I was a senior in high school. And one day, you know, someone asked me to come back behind a 7-Eleven right before a school dance, and everything was history, you know. I left very changed. I went to the dance. I was very social, and I was starting to meet different people, incredibly nice, incredibly generous, and that's really my first introduction to cannabis.
Well, I met James Zachodni about 22 years ago. Our first jobs were bartending, and you know, that's really where we formed our relationship and desire to be in hospitality, and created an event called the Golden Ticket. And it was a really great collaboration where, you know, our creativity, our outside the box thinking to create very meaningful events that people really wanted to be at.
For me, I realized there's only one reason why we're all here connecting and meeting all these people is that MJBiz for me 9 years ago opened that door, and I'm forever grateful to be able to now have another place where people can continue relationships and be able to fulfill what they came down here to do, which is work together.
When I started a cannabis store back in 2011, I realized there just wasn't a lot of marketing tools for us business owners. I had that aha moment. I realized, you know what, we need more resources. And that's when I called up James again. He was running a magazine called The D-List that focused on drinking, dining, and that experience. And when we got together and talked about a very cannabis specific magazine, it was just immediately fireworks. We got to roll out our first magazine at a very important freedom festival to me, which was called Hemp Fest. You know, we got the mayor of Seattle on our first cover, and that seemed to spark a lot of interest, but also concern, I believe, as our brand was called Dope Magazine, which to me is the highest compliment you can pay anybody. If you were gonna call someone dope, but we also backed it up with defending our patients everywhere. And that we did. Now there was a responsibility to tell not our own stories, but people who were being affected and people who benefited from this very, very powerful plant, and plant that has been demonized and certainly too misunderstood. In the meantime, we were helping businesses, brands in the early days begin to develop their voice. When we were going to cannabis events, they were very underground. There was still risk of prosecution. We wanted to provide safe access to these events because everyone was sacrificing their freedom for being there. And that's when we started building our Dope Cup. It was a small room, and you know, the police department came in, the fire department, the city came in and walked through the whole place. And you know, at the end, you know, when they put their thumbs up and said, "This looks good," I think it was a huge win for our whole industry. And we all cheered together in joy. And that was really one of those first moments where we realized if we're going to legitimize the industries, compliance was one of the most important pieces of the puzzle. I certainly feel like, you know, the plant enhances everything that we do in life. And certainly for me, having fun doing it is absolutely important to being a good father, to being a good spouse, is coming home happy, doing what you love, doing it with passion. They're gonna see me smile, and that's gonna create harmony. And if you can build a business in this industry, I don't know any other place that I'd rather be. I love it.
You know, Dope Magazine continued to go on until we actually sold that to High Times in 2019. We exited. We were just sitting there thinking about, you know, what do we want to do We want to stay in the event side out of all the things we did with Dope, which was all of it was really special. Events stood out to us, and we also realized that throwing events was very difficult. There's a lot of compliance issues. There's a lot of issues like buying tickets and selling your tickets. So we created Farechild out of that necessity. And, actually there was a poster on his wall with Andy Warhol and Steve Rubell of Studio 54 and Brooke Shields. And I was looking at the picture and I was just like, you know what? This is the kind of feeling that we need to come when we build this thing, this new company. And the artist's name was Farechild.
Wow, we have been throwing events during MJBiz for the last 8 years, and it is truly an honor to put together a award show that recognizes all these hardworking people. This is probably the hardest time in the history of our industry. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of daring too. So we wanted to recognize those folks in a very meaningful way. To be able to do it at the Palms Casino and having a huge after show is really going to be something exciting for us to build. So we're absolutely excited and we just can't wait. Just cool to be on this journey for sure.